From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jeanelle Slade. Well, tonight, 4 more COVID-19 related deaths and another burst of new active cases. Montana feeling the brunt of COVID-19 as the United States hits a grim milestone today and surpasses 200,000 Americans killed by coronavirus related illness. 4 more COVID-related deaths and 275 new confirmed active cases across Montana today. The total deaths have now reached 164. 2 of the latest victims, men in their 70s, residents from 2 different senior living facilities in Yellowstone County. The 3rd victim is a Rosebud County resident, and the 4th victim, a Bighorn County man in his 70s who just passed this morning. Well, today's jump in active cases is the 2nd largest since the pandemic began. The biggest hit reported today in Cascade County, which added 59, and they have now reached 337 active cases. Yellowstone County still has the most at 802. Well, state health experts joined Governor Steve Bullock today to address the jump in cases. MTN's John Riley reports.
Montana has seen a sizable increase in average daily COVID cases since July, with more than 270 new cases in 2 out of the last 4 days.
From mid-July to early September, our weekly number of cases stabilized. Unfortunately, that stability was at about 800 per week. So just over the 2 months where we were stable, Montana added about 70% of the 10,000 cases that we've experienced.
The state has attributed a lot of the recent cases to congregate settings like schools, jails, and nursing homes, while also citing Labor Day activities and social distancing fatigue as significant contributing factors for many cases. State Medical Officer Dr. Greg Holzman said the increase in number is a troubling trend that will only bring more suffering to Montana families, unless more people begin following COVID guidelines like wearing a mask and limiting social gatherings.
When disease rates rise, we see more suffering, we see more death. We see schools that have to close down, not necessarily because of a health mandate, because we don't have teachers to teach or students to learn. We can see businesses suffer as people are concerned about going out and acquiring the virus.
Social distancing and masking up has been a unified message by state and county officials for months, yet cases have continued to rise. The White House guidance to Montana this week encouraged fining individuals not following mask guidelines in high COVID-positive areas. Bullock says he will not be implementing an action like that.
The directives that we've done at the state level have been, by and large, applicable to all areas of the state. And local communities and local counties and local public health entities can actually be more restrictive, and we'll support those measures.
Governor Bullock says increasing restrictions or fining people ultimately isn't going to solve this problem. It's going to take Montanans following social distance guidelines, wearing masks, and washing their hands. Reporting in Helena, John Riley, MTN News.
Thanks, John. Now, the spike in active numbers is also hitting here in Yellowstone County, but county health experts tell Q2 today we need to focus on the bigger picture.
Some of it is, frankly, there's just more disease being spread. And some of it is also, there's been a couple of days where there's been some reporting issues or some instrumentation issues where several days tests were run at once or several days tests were reported at once. That's why it's really important that we not just pay attention to a single day. We obviously have to pay attention to what happens each day, but you need to look at it over time to smooth out those sort of ups and downs that are natural. So Saturday and Sunday counts tend to be low because there's less testing on Saturday and Sunday.
Well, the large case numbers do lead to a very important question when it comes to schools. At what number will they be forced to close? While there is no exact number, Felton is focused on 4 measures that will ultimately affect that decision. Those are healthcare and public healthcare capacity, the age range of cases, case count per 100,000, and test positivity rates.
We did see an increase last week in the proportion of cases that involve people aged 19 and younger. That went from 9% the prior week to 18% last week. It's important to remember that our medical technical team is really looking at this over at least a 14-day period. So a single week isn't gonna change the overall status. We're looking for sustained changes.
Felton also notes positive cases are reported to the county where a person lives, not where they are specifically tested. However, he says when it comes to university students, positive cases are reported to the county where the student goes to school. Well, more details released today surrounding Monday's fatal shooting in the Billings Heights. Authorities now tell us 43-year-old Robert Coulter of Roundup was shot multiple times while he was assaulting a 33-year-old woman at a home on the 300 block of Nash Lane. Police say Coulter, who had a relationship with the woman, had apparently strangled, pistol whipped, and tried to kidnap her when a 34-year-old man living in a separate building in that area stepped in. Now, police say the man shot Coulter multiple times after Coulter put a gun to the woman's head. No arrests have been made. Well, Lockwood firefighters, along with some assisting rural agencies, put a stop to a brush fire this afternoon before it reached Emerald Hills. That blaze started south of Billings on Interstate 90 near Lockwood. The flames burned west of the roadway along the eastbound lane. So far, no word on what sparked that fire. Well, the smoke in our air isn't just from that fire. It's once again blowing in from the west coast, Bob.
Yeah, I'm afraid so, just as we were predicting. And then let me show you what's happening. Here's the way it looked in Billings about an hour ago. And as you can see, we do have some smoke in there. Maybe you noticed the smoke was starting to pick up a little bit in our area. So that's what's happening. Now, let me show you what's going to happen here as soon as I can get this thing to work again. We are having some issues at the moment. Let me just get over here and start this thing going again. All right, so there we go. Hopefully we'll get this thing. I'm having a little hard. The computer's going iffy on me right now. Sorry about that, folks. All right, so we are going to see if I can't get this going one more time. There it is. So anyway, as we can go ahead and put this into motion, you will see we do have some smoke starting to make its way from the southwest, moving into the Billings area this afternoon. And then look at this. All of a sudden, that smoke gets a little thinner tomorrow. And then by the time the weekend gets here, all that smoke gets out of here. That is good news. In the meantime, here's what's happening in our area. We are looking at basically gone from good to moderate air quality in our area. And that's basically the story throughout much of the state, good to moderate across much of Montana. So it's not too bad now, but it is forecast to get a little bit worse later on in the next couple of days. And we'll have more on that coming your way in a few more minutes.
All right, thanks so much, Bob. Well, a district judge in Montana says he has a lot of work to do, but will reach a decision on all mail ballots as quickly as humanly possible. Judge Dana Christensen heard from attorneys for the Republican Party and the Trump campaign today who accused Governor Bullock of creating chaos on the eve of the election. Attorneys for the state say the GOP is throwing county election officials a curve and show no evidence that mailed balloting will lead to fraud. 46 of Montana's counties plan to run the election through the mail, but every county will offer a way for people to vote in person. And if you want your vote to count, here's a quick rundown of what you need to know. In Montana, you cannot register to vote online. You must fill out an application and either mail it in or take it down to the county elections office. In Yellowstone County, the elections office will move to Metro Park starting October 2nd. The general election is all mail for Yellowstone County residents this year, and those ballots will be mailed out on October 9th. But if you want to vote in person, early voting starts October 2nd at Metro Park. If you're sending in your registration, you need to get that in by October 26th. After that, you must deliver your registration form in person in order to receive a ballot. As with previous all-mail elections this year, once you have your ballot filled out, you can drop it off to be counted at the elections office. To see if you are registered or change your mail ballot address, visit the Montana My Voter page on the Secretary of State's website. And of course, all eyes will be on the vote count Tuesday, November 3rd. Well, in Montana's race for governor, Republican Greg Gianforte has outspent Democrat Mike Cooney by a 3-to-1 margin so far, thanks in part to $3.5 million that Gianforte has pulled from his own pocket. But the candidates aren't the only ones spending money on this pivotal race. As MTN chief political reporter Mike Dennison tells us, outside spending by various groups will likely approach $20 million by Election Day.
Democrat Mike Cooney has spent about $2 million on his campaign so far, compared to $6.4 million for Republican Greg Gianforte. But Cooney is getting considerable assistance from outside groups. Chief among them is a group called Good Jobs MT, a political action committee financed primarily by the Democratic Governors Association. It had spent $4.3 million through the end of August and has spent or booked another $3.5 million in TV ad time through October. Some of that money has assisted other groups helping Cooney. like the Montana 55 Plus Action Fund and the Montana Conservation Voters Action Fund, which has added another $560,000 of its own spending. And the labor union representing public school teachers and other public employees, the Montana Federation of Public Employees, has spent $2.23 million on ads going after Gianforte or otherwise aiding Cooney. All told, these outside groups are on tap to spend about $11 million on Cooney's behalf in the campaign. On the other side, there is RGA Right Direction PAC, which is financed by the Republican Governors Association. It says it has spent about $4.5 million on Gianforte's behalf, primarily on TV ads attacking Cooney, and has reserved another $3.75 million in TV time through October. That's $8.25 million of outside money helping Gianforte's campaign. So when you add it all together, including the candidate spending, Gianforte still has the edge, but not by much, sort of like the race itself, which is still considered the only closely competitive governor's race in the nation. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
Thanks, Mike. Well, up next on tonight's MTN 530 News on Q2, we look into what went wrong at one Montana long-term care facility, resulting in double-digit deaths. And in sports, why one local volleyball team is tweaking cancer awareness pink for lime green.